Welcome to our second workshop on crypto as analytics. Those who are here physically, thanks for coming. Those who join virtually, also thanks for joining. We will try to use the next 3 hours as best as we can to talk about the topic and hopefully also present some exciting recent work on this topic. Yeah, but let me start with maybe a little bit of motivation and history, why we're actually doing this. So among the organizers, you find some people who are doing research in the field of crypto assets for quite a while, and many of them having backgrounds in technical subjects like computer science. And also originally, the topic is very deeply rooted in computer science, and you find most publications being published in computer science venues, especially those related to privacy and security, which is not a surprise because the word crypto is in the crypto coin term, right? But what we also observed recently is that the topic, of course, also with the increasing market capitalization, is gaining traction also outside of computer science. So we have economics, finance, we have criminology, we have legal studies who are also increasingly dealing with the topic. And we thought, okay, it makes a lot of sense to pull the topic a little bit out of this very privacy security centric venues. And we thought, okay, the web conference is such a venue. It's still computer science, but it's very open also to interdisciplinary discussions in the field, which are, in our opinion, very important to have. Who are we? I'm Bernhard. I'm one of the organizers. I'm working at the Complexity Science Hub Vienna, and I'm co-organizing this workshop with Java Xu, from UCL and DLT Science Foundation, Friedhelm Victor from TRM Labs, and Markus Strohmeier, who is a professor at University of Mannheim with a strong background in computational social sciences. Before we get started, I think most people know what crypto assets are, but it's usually a good idea to repeat what we conceive as crypto assets when we're talking about this. And we are aware that there are many, many definitions. Legal scholars have their own view of crypto assets, and their definitions might deviate from ours. So what we did is we basically just came up with a very simple and straightforward definition and say, okay, crypto assets are just exchangeable virtual assets that utilize cryptography to some extent and represent some economic value to someone. And at the moment, most of them are still running on blockchain technologies, but if you think about CDBCs, it could as well be something else. You might also be aware that the crypto asset space is not only Bitcoin anymore. So Bitcoin is a native token deployed on a so-called UTXO-based ledger. And there are many altcoins derived from Bitcoins, of course. You also have privacy-focused coins. But I would say the big spectrum, or the large spectrum of crypto assets, is actually nowadays happening on account-based models like Ethereum, and they are used for all sorts of purposes. So we find, for instance, crypto assets who are called NFTs. They represent they uniquely represent some piece of digital unit, whatever it is. So in Austria, for instance, they sold the Klimt painting, the digital version of the Klimt painting, split it in the electronic version of it into individual parts and sold the parts as NFTs. You might also have heard about stable coins. So they are frequently in the news recently because the promise of stable coins is to have a peg to fiat currencies like the US dollar or the euro. The question is always, is this really the case, and where is the money? That's one of the questions that are frequently asked, especially by regulation authorities. Yeah, so you see the spectrum of crypto assets is not just Bitcoin anymore. It's large, and the use cases are very diverse and still growing. Yeah, for us, and this also motivates why we are here today. As I mentioned before, we aim for having some more interdisciplinary venue. And the reason for this is because if you look at crypto assets from a bird's eye perspective, what you actually see is that we have an ecosystem, right, in which actors with different intentions, might be legal or illegal, are linked together and interact with each other through financial transfers. And this is an ecosystem that's interesting to study. I think it's also the first time we have an ecosystem where the data is available to basically help us answering research questions. I think this is also the reason why so many researchers from other fields are also interested. And yeah, of course, studying such ecosystems require methods. You need computational methods for doing this. And this is also one big aspect or one central aspect of this workshop, because what at least we define as crypto asset analytics is really, let's say, the scientific part of developing and applying, this is also important, quantitative methods to understand the technical and the socioeconomic aspects of crypto asset ecosystems. Yeah, and the scope of this workshop or the application of those methods is really obviously people want to understand markets, and for this they need those techniques. You might also have heard that crypto assets are not always used for legal purposes, so also law enforcement is obviously interested in those techniques, and just this topic of tracking and tracing, it has really become $1 billion business now. So it's also great interest there. And slides are somehow stuck. Yeah. Also, those who are working on new protocols, usually they want to make informed decisions on how to design the new protocols, and measuring existing systems in the wild is an important precondition for doing this. Also, protocol design is one major area where you need those fields. And finally, AML, anti-money laundering, compliance are huge application fields where those methods are needed. Yeah, so the objective of this workshop is really to bring together academics from, and businesses also, we also have businesses here, from different academic disciplines to present the newest findings related to crypto assets and crypto assets ecosystem. So you see, it's really broad, and this is on purpose. We really would like to have various perspectives. We would like to have empirical studies. We would like to have computer scientists or engineering related fields presenting their tools and methods, which can be of interest for the broader academic community. We also want to see case studies and use cases. So I brought a case study, for instance, today. And since we were at the web conference, obviously, if someone is looking into the intersection between the web and crypto is also of interest, you all know that, I mean, one of the most common wallets that's used nowadays, simply a browser add-on. So you see this tight integration between the web technology and crypto assets. I think this is also an important part. And obviously, we're all interested in data, because without data, it's really hard to do quantitative studies. So whatever data sets are being published and are of interest for a broader community should also be presented here. I'm now handing over to CAAW, who will introduce our keynote speakers in the program.
Thank you very much, Bernhard. So we have the great pleasure to have two keynote speakers for this conference. The first one is Professor Cathy Yuan, who's the Professor of Finance at London School of Economics and Political Science. Professor Yuan received her PhD in economics from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. Prior to obtaining her PhD, she also gained some practical insights in companies such as JP Morgan. Then we also have somebody from the industry, who's Rohan Agawa. Rohan, welcome. Oh, sorry, Rohan. Yeah. Rohan is a senior manager at Chainviews and TRM Labs. He received his bachelor degree at Northwestern University. Thank you very much for joining us. So then a brief overview of the workshop program today. As Bernhard has mentioned, this is a kind of interdisciplinary workshop where we touch upon multiple subjects. So the first part of the workshop is more with a econ or financial touch, where we have 4 papers presented, and after 1.5 hours, we will have a brief 30-minute coffee break. The second part of the workshop is more security focused. Here we have 3 very nicely done peer-reviewed papers presented. before we go into the concluding remarks. So the first part of the workshop will be chaired by me, myself, and the second part will be chaired by Freedom here. We will be soliciting comments from the audience as well as acting as a time police. So speaking of which, without further ado, I see we need to thank wholeheartedly our sponsors and co-organizers, the TRM Labs and the DLT Science Foundation, for supporting our workshop.